Trump's Commerce Secretary, his name is Howard Lutnick. He's a character, and he produces some kind of uncomfortable and embarrassing moments while he's attempting to defend the Trump administration. And we have our most recent example, where Maria Bartiromo fills him in on something that, as the Commerce Secretary, you'd think that you would keep up with, which is forecasts on GDP, kind of a big thing. And Howard Lutnick seemed to have no idea that this was a forecast from the Atlanta Federal Reserve. And he just starts shouting and freaking out about it, saying, "That's insane, no way." And you can see Maria Bartiromo, the MAGA Fox, is sort of thrown off. If you appreciate the show, don't forget to click the subscribe button as we go through what is going to be a wild ride of a segment.
We've seen worries about growth. I know you said you're not expecting a recession, but investors are on edge over the possibility of a recession this year after the Atlanta Federal Reserve said that it's predicting a 2.4% contraction in the first quarter. And of course, President Trump would not.
A what? Wait. Say that again. A what? What?
The Atlanta Federal Reserve.
2.4% contraction?
Correct. First quarter.
Okay, right here.
Contraction? What is this? A woman having a baby?
Right now, that is ridiculous.
Okay. Have you spoken to the president of the Atlanta Federal Reserve? Have you told
Absolutely
the Atlanta?
Not.
Have you told the Atlanta Fed that you say it's ridiculous because they're out with this contraction prediction for the and I know that you and President Trump are handed a mess. I'm not arguing that, but now we're talking about recession, and I asked President Trump about it this week, and he didn't say no.
Why are they both shouting? I don't know why Maria's voice. Imagine if my entire show I just had this tone of voice. Wouldn't it get pretty tiring? We know that the Federal Reserve of Atlanta really. Oh my gosh. Shh. And then Howard's going, "What? There's no way. The Atlanta what?" Well, it's this. Howie, pay attention. Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. GDP now. The growth rate of real gross domestic product, or GDP, is a key indicator of economic activity, but the official estimate is released with a delay. Our GDP Now forecasting model provides a nowcast of the official estimate prior to its release by estimating GDP growth using a methodology similar to the one used by the U.S. Bureau of Economic Statistics. And so it goes through and then gives us the latest estimate here, which is negative 2.4% GDP growth, or a contraction. And, or as Michael Scott would call it, a contraption. And it is profoundly concerning that the Secretary of Commerce doesn't keep up with such a forecast, or doesn't read like one newspaper where such forecasts have been widely reported on. Now, I guess the good thing for Howard is that it went from negative 2.8 to negative 2.4 in recent weeks, but that's still bad. But it got less bad, still bad, but less bad. And do you know what it was whenever Biden was handling the economy? The expectation was Q1 was going to be something to the tune of 2 something positive GDP growth. So it's clear the mass layoffs, actually this is cited in analyses of this data, the mass layoffs, the economic uncertainty, the cutting off of funds, the tariff approach, the utter inability to plan for the future because of Trump's flipping on and off of tariffs is the cause of this adjustment. Now, it's concerning Howard doesn't know, and it's funny that he would go, "That's insane." We don't know if that's going to end up being the final GDP, but the fact that it's even in the negatives as a GDP Now tracker is really, really troubling. And the swing of like 4 percentage points whenever it switched from Biden to Trump should concern you, Howie. So, Maria, no, he wasn't handed a mess. He was handed a very stable economic situation that was forecasted to be stable until he started going cray. Now, remember, this is the same Howard Lutnick of "if you build it here" fame. You'll see what I mean in about 20 seconds.
Do you think by moving everything back as you describe it that they're going to be able to be competitive globally? Aren't prices ultimately going to actually have to rise?
I think if you want to buy things from other countries and you want to bring it into America, then the price is going to rise. But if you make it here, then of course the price won't rise. So make it here.
I feel like, watch it one more time, everybody, and imagine that at one point he gets what's that called? That is a shot for allergies. An EpiPen. He gets an EpiPen around the ass right here. Ready?
Other countries and you want to bring it into America, then the price is going to rise. But if you make it here, then of course the price won't rise. So make it here. Make it here. How hard is that to say? Just
easy to say. False in its implications.
Just keep repeating it to yourself. There's no tariff if you make it.
Howard at night in bed. If you make it here, if you make it here, if you make it here, you can make it here. Everything's gonna be good if we make it here. Trump said we make it here.
Here. So TSMC, the biggest chip manufacturer, says, okay, I'll make it here. You're going to watch everybody come to that realization. Apple, who builds it all in China. Why are they building it all in China and giving us our iPhone? Why don't they make it here? They used to say we don't have...
It's cheaper.
One answer, Mr. Secretary, is that wages are lower over there.
And now there are robots who can do it. You're going to see robotic production of iPhones and the jobs that are going to be created. People who build those factories, the mechanics who work on those robots. These jobs are going to be millions and millions of those jobs. These are great, high-paying jobs, and you don't need a college education to do it. This is the recreation of tradecraft in the United States of America, and Donald Trump is on it. He's bringing it back.
That's not what tradecraft is. People overseeing the robots would have to have a very high level of education, Howie. But that's also, so yes, a basic economic principle is the reason that companies buy products from other countries is because they found a cheaper option. And so in some cases you say, well, that's undermining an industry here. Fine. And then you could implement a tariff or other economic measures to try to make it more difficult for companies to buy abroad. All right. What does that mean, though? How do you make it more difficult? How would you get a company that has higher profit margins or is able to grow their company more or both because they found something cheaper? So then they have more money left over. They buy the product. Now they can sell it. Better margin abroad. Well, you would make it more expensive for them to buy it abroad, which is what a tariff is doing. And so then their two options are to go back and find in the United States or a different country that's not having a tariff applied to it. But because they clearly found what was the most economically senseful, the most reasonable or best for their economic bottom line option, that would necessarily mean that they either keep buying from that source and it's more expensive, they thus have to increase prices, or they find a different source that's going to be more expensive, because otherwise, if it were cheaper or the same, they could have done that already, and then they'll have to adjust prices that way. Now, in some cases, that's worth it. On all products that we buy as a massive consumer nation, that's not reasonable. And you can't both make the argument that you're going to bring all the supply chains back in a way that logistically is physically impossible because we don't have the manpower to produce all the things we consume, because we consume a lot more than we produce. But it also is going to necessarily increase prices, so you can't make both those arguments at the same time, as he attempts to do. He did get asked a question by Maria, when does this become your economy? Because you keep saying whenever something's good, like the inflation report came in, and it was a fine inflation report. And they said, that's because of us. Wait, what? I thought you said this was Biden's economy. No, that part's good. Inflation, something that we do see a delay in actions to the data outcome. But then on things we don't, like the stock market or like forecasted GDP, they say that's because of Biden. It's all upside down. But he said fourth quarter, we'll say that's really our economy.
Going to take, Secretary?
Okay, the Donald Trump economy we own the economy in the fourth quarter. We start to get, we get shovels in the ground, we cut regulation, we get shovels in the ground of this $2 trillion of a commitment to build factories, to build production back to America. You've got...
What percentage of the $2 trillion private investment commitments do you think is going to materialize?
Everybody coming back to America to build. That starts really strong in the third quarter. First and second quarter are sort of a little bit our optimism, egg prices down, interest rates down, energy prices down. We get a little bit of benefit from us, but it is the mess that we were left with. But it's not that bad. Remember, overstating ridiculous things. I mean, you feel it, Maria. Did you feel deep pain in the first quarter? I've watched your show all along. I don't remember you saying, "Oh my God."
No.
Oh my gosh, Howie. That's because she's a multimillionaire, Howie. that maybe is why she's not feeling the pain. Isn't that think about the argument he just made. Listen, Maria, fourth quarter is really us. Unless we see good things sooner, then that's us. But if it's bad, it's them. But it wasn't that bad. But it's their mess, which was bad. But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't bad for you, but it was good. But it was bad. It'll be us unless it's bad. Then it's them. Unless it's good, then it's us. If it's inflation, it's good. It's bad. It's us. It's so what? No, how about we do this? Instead of arbitrarily picking when something is theirs or Biden's or this quarter's going to be their economy, how about we just be thoughtful adults and look at the data and determine what impacted which data points? Because we can do that. Like when surveyed businesses say we are laying off people because of Doge efforts, then we could say that's because of Doge efforts. Or when companies say we're preparing to lay off or raise prices because of Trump's tariffs, maybe we say that was because of Trump's tariffs. However, if the February jobs report was decisions made unrelated to and too early to be impacted by Trump's recent aggressive policy actions, maybe we say that was just a general economic trend. We could just be, that's one option, to being honest. I don't know what Howard wants. You must be asking, why is this guy the commerce secretary? Well, it's because he says stuff like this. This clip is going to come in hot. I remember, Jaden, so if you want to get ready for that, unless I'm misremembering. But he says stuff like this to Trump, and that's all you need to get a powerful position.
First, I'd like to thank you, President Trump. It is the greatest honor to work for you, to be with you, to carry your name, your leadership, and your flag throughout the world. The press has no idea who the gentleman to my left is. They portray him in all sorts of ways, but...
They portray him in all sorts of ways. They'll say, he said he grabs women by the you-know-what. They'll go, hey, he said we should terminate the Constitution. They'll go, hey, he said the election was stolen and it wasn't. It's so weird. They just say things that he said. They just recite things he said. It's not fair, okay? If you saw what I see, you wouldn't just be telling people about him. That's not fair.
I know him as the smartest, most thoughtful, and most intuitive person I've ever met. And it's amazing to
Thank you.
Be in this room and to work for him.
Yeah. The character of someone is not like an interpretive painting. I look and I see the most smart, thoughtful flower pot ever. That's not, he's done enough stuff that you can't do that. I'm so sick of that. If you knew him behind the scenes, you would know that he wasn't found liable for sexual abuse. You would know that if you knew him privately. You would know that he hasn't threatened the media through his actions. That's what you would find out behind the scenes. Howard. Share your thoughts in the comments.